Good morning, everyone. This is Tony DeGonia, host of the Tony DeGonia Show. We're coming to you straight out of Tampa, Florida today, and we're just glad you could come and visit with us and see what we're going to talk about. So, find you a spot with some good signal, grab you a glass of some sweet iced tea, and get ready, because we're going gator hunting.
When everything is broken and nothing's going right,
Welcome, everybody. This is Tony DeGonia, host of the Tony DeGonia Show. And as I said in the intro, I am doing all of my shows this week from Tampa, Florida. Why, you ask? Well, the answer's simple. I got a job. So I am now gainfully employed. But does that mean that all these podcasts are going to stop? I don't think so. Man, I've got stuff to say. We got articles to cover. We got cybersecurity to talk about. But the great thing is we're about to start a whole new series on physical security and all that entails. So, it's an exciting time here at the Tony DeGonia Show. Alright, so today's article is not part of any series. This is episode 14. It is Monday, May 14th, around about 10:30 a.m. I am in a studio room, so I have no idea today what the weather looks like. I just got to Tampa last night, and it was raining, but that's okay. That's okay, because we're going to have a good time in Tampa. We're going to start this new job. We're going to kick butt and take names, because that's what I do. I will tell you more about the new job once I get a few things cleared up. But just know that the wait is over, and it is a great time. All right, so today's article is it's an article that I picked up off of Information Week. And the writer of the article is James M. Connolly. He wrote it on May 3rd, time-stamped 7:40 p.m. So this is a little bit of a unique article because we're not going to talk about technology so much as we are going to talk about business. So the title of the article is "The Future is About the Business, Not the Technology." So the article starts off, there's been plenty of change throughout the evolution of information technology. Now it's time for the corporate world to catch up and reshape how they do business and serve their customers. A common way of looking at the future of technology is to focus on unit sales, installed bases, and revenue estimates. Kicking off today's keynote address at Interop ITX in Las Vegas, Joe Barkai, a consultant and author focused on the Internet of Things, highlighted he estimates that 20 to 50 billion devices will be connected to the Internet by 2020. His comment, "But who cares?" Allowing that device makers and telecom companies care, he went on to say that the numbers don't matter to the average person. What really matters is the connected customer will change the way all types of companies do business. Subsequent keynote presentations by Zulfikar Ramzan, Chief Technology Officer for RSA, and Sam Ramji, Vice President of Product Management for Google Cloud Platform, followed the same thought track. It isn't about the technology, it's about how companies respond and in many cases remake themselves. Barkai used his talk about the IoT to explore why most products that go into the field fail. Most companies are stuck in myopia. Once a product is in the field, they don't know who's using it, how they're using it, or how it works. The only feedback the company gets might be when something goes wrong and the unhappy consumer has to contact technical support. Barkai used the example of CD players installed in cars, asking how many in the audience ever use their CD players. Almost nobody. Why do manufacturers still install them? Because they don't have a handle on consumer needs. That's something that an IoT implementation could tell them. To me, the IoT becomes the largest, best, always connected focus group, said Barkai. The IoT isn't about the telemetry of one device, it's about the connected customer. It's about innovation, he said, getting a steady stream of feedback on products, understanding how those products are used, if at all, and how they can be improved while delivering what the customer expects. Focusing on cybersecurity, Ramzan pointed out how new technologies have enabled and will continue to spur threats. But even in the community of threat actors, it isn't just about the tech, but about the business as well. Today's threat actors aren't satisfied. They continue to evolve, and they benefit from a vast underground economy, he said. Where a few years ago hackers had to do most of their own coding and management of their threats, today that underground economy offers them modules and services, such as payment capabilities. Ramzan said that enterprise organizations have to rethink their security strategies and simplify what they can control. In an era when there are more than 2,000 vendors offering security tools, he urged companies to double down on a few key vendors that provide you value and work to integrate those select tools into a common security platform. Joining what seemed like a chorus of interop ITX speakers who emphasized that security is everyone's job, Ramzan also outlined that key elements of a corporate incident response plan. That plan isn't a wish list, he said. It has to be funded properly so the technologies and training are in place when they are needed. That plan also requires collaboration among all those who will have a role in the plan, not just the cybersecurity team and IT, but senior management, marketing, public relations, and finance. The organization has to treat risk as a science, not a dark art, he concluded. Google's Ramji highlighted how technology has changed and why individuals and organizations need to leverage those changes. He noted that when the first Interop event took place in 1988, ARPANET had 60,000 hosts, compared to more than 1 billion Internet hosts today. He cited a comment from Internet pioneer Vinton Cerf, who once noted that the Internet has enabled business nobody ever could have imagined. Ramji said that one of the key changes driven by web and cloud technologies is that so many things can be reduced to software. That trend will continue, and the evolution of technology is key. He said that when he started programming as a youth in 1980 on a Commodore PET computer, storage and compute power were scarce. It's a mindset that still permeates many companies today. Even though storage and compute resources have grown exponentially while costs have plummeted, the organization of the future will recognize that those resources are plentiful, and the new mindset will reshape how the organization does business. Today's most impactful technology strategies are built on openness, abundance, and empowerment, he said. Wow, wow, wow. So some of the highest ranking security officers and vice presidents of some of the largest organizations in the world are thoroughly embracing IoT. Before IoT is totally and completely defined. And I say this because IoT is essentially defined as anything that's not classified as a particular type of device. And there's some inherent risks with IoT that you don't have with desktops and servers and tablets and cell phones and things like that. And that inherent risk comes along with embedded chipsets and embedded software that resides on those chipsets, and the embedded storage that resides on there to run that operating system that's embedded, and to have the storage to write log files and things like that. Those embedded issues, or those embedded storage and software and embedded chips, create a smorgasbord of devices that hackers can store malware, ransomware, any sort of software that they want to run, anything from. For example, there's enough power in a small device not to create a denial of service attack that one device could take down an organization. But when you talk about an attacker having access to 10,000 devices or even 1,000 devices and setting off malware that created, say, a SYNAC attack or a ping attack to a particular device, or even some oddball port attack that the hacker decides to use, that he finds open on any given network, you're talking about catastrophe for the organization that hacker's going after. All the while, those devices, while that device is down, could be hacking through the network and dropping off a payload of different types of malware, ransomware. So while the IT folks, the security folks, are fighting off the denial of service attack, the hackers got the upper hand and is still dropping off a payload that is that's corrupting their network, and that can essentially cost that corporation or law enforcement agency or three-letter government entity or cybercom or whomever they decide to attack. It could cost them upwards of billions of dollars, and definitely billions of dollars over the long haul. I'm cautious about IoT. Now, I've been in the physical security industry for about a year now, and before I came into the physical security industry, video cameras were classified as an IoT device. Access control devices, anything that was on the IP network in any given enterprise or SMB network that was not part of the IT infrastructure, as far as something that contained servers and ran on standardized devices that were controlled by the IT department, were considered IoT. And we discovered that there were a lot of these cameras that were coming out of China. And for example, there's a manufacturer that comes out of China called Hikvision, or Hikvision. Some people call it Hikvision, some people call it Hikvision. I like Hikvision because, I'm kind of a redneck anyway. But what we found was, or what a lot of people found, was that when they plugged in those cameras from Hikvision, those cameras were dialing back to IP addresses that were geographically traced back to China. The other thing that we found was that company, there was a majority stake in that company by the Chinese government. Now, that's bad business, and that puts that particular organization in a place where the U.S. government won't do work with them. The downside is that the U.S. government had already done some work with them, had already done some, had already bought some of those devices and deployed them. And as soon as they found out, all of those devices had to come down because they were no longer secure, considered secure, because they were from a not an enemy country, but from a country that we didn't consider to be thoroughly friendly to us. China is a communist state, and while we do have good trade, or at least a lot of trade with China, I don't know if it's good trade, there are issues with things that come out of China, and there are a lot of hacks that come out of China. China has a very diverse government-funded hacking group that is part of their military, and they do perform a number of nation-state attacks. So this is kind of where physical security and cybersecurity kind of start to mesh and meld. And so the issue here is that every camera that goes out in a given network, unless that network has pretty much a complete air gap, there are ways to get from the main network to the camera network, or from the camera network to the main network. And cameras in a lot of cases, they're outside, and they're ran over a PoE port, so anybody who walks up to it can basically plug in something and unleash unparalleled malware and bad stuff, right? They can unleash an attack on a given network. Now there are a lot of security pieces within most of the modern camera networks, IP-based, that would set off alarms and things like that. However, regardless of what alarm is set off, those alarms, those systems don't stop. They don't cut off that port automatically. Even some of the more advanced manufacturers, like I believe Genetec and Milestone and Indigo Vision, have launched cybersecurity IPS boxes, right, to or not IPS but IDS, intrusion detection, to notify operators anytime anybody tries to access one of the cameras with a username or password. It also looks for downtime and things like that, and notifies operators of any downtime that's occurring. However, for what it is, even though, it's using artificial intelligence, especially the Indigo Vision piece, it's using, artificial intelligence to read the database, so you don't have to program where every camera is. And by the way, I did work at Indigo Vision, and I'm not giving away any trade secrets by telling you about this. This is all, you can find all of this in their marketing material. And I'm going to give you a little bit of my opinion. My opinion is that what they're doing, while it was good, it was not enough. Of course, their response to that was, well, it's phase one. Phase one is great. However, coming from the firewall side of the house, I think there are so many other things that could have been done to help actually stop an attack and not just notify an attack. It's kind of like the commercial where the bank robbers walk in and they start robbing the bank, and the security guard is there, and he says, "Oh, the bank is being robbed," and the people are all laying on the floor, and they look at him and they go, "Aren't you going to do something?" And he says, "No, I'm not a security guard. I'm a security monitor." Same deal. They're security monitors. That particular appliance is a security monitor. And as far as I know, the other manufacturers are building similar devices that are security monitors. When what the surveillance industry needs and the physical security industry needs are security guards. They need something that can stop attacks that are coming on to their network, because in a lot of cases the IT department doesn't want to mess with the security stuff. So you've got these security guys, the security technicians and officers and operators, and they may know the software pretty well, and they may know the hardware pretty well, but in a lot of cases they're not experienced IT people, so they don't know everything that the IT department knows about networking and how to harden their storage servers or how to harden their cameras. I mean, there are some guides. Some of these manufacturers put guides out on how to do it, but you can put out all the guides in the world that you want to, but if the person reading the guide doesn't understand what to do, then you might as well give it to a monkey. And I'm not saying anything bad about these guys. I've met a lot of them. They're great guys. They're hard workers. They just don't have the training. And so we have to be careful about that coming from the security side of the house. So what those manufacturers have to do is they have to do more on the IT side, because a lot of the manufacturers employ IT personnel to work on their networks and their cameras and all of that stuff, because they are IP based. So they want people that know and understand internet protocol and the OSI model and all of that stuff, right? So that they can troubleshoot and so that they understand how to sell all this stuff, right? So what they have to do is they have to do more to educate their partners that are out selling this stuff for them, or they've got to be more interactive in the installation and deployment of these networks, right? Because what's happening is the customer is suffering, not the integrator. I mean, the integrator gets a black eye. The manufacturer thoroughly gets beat up, which is horrible, because that's revenue loss, and the customer suffers. Now, last time I did a study, it was estimated that physical security, especially in surveillance, was going to be, over the next 5 years, a $60 billion industry. Now, if they were to play their cards right and work within that framework of security, you could probably turn it into a $120 billion industry. And it wouldn't be very hard, because a lot of these companies already OEM stuff from third parties. So how hard would it be for them to OEM a device from a firewall manufacturer, or a Trend Micro appliance? I mean, they could OEM it, they could paint it whatever color they wanted, and they would have full support from whatever manufacturer supplied it for them, same way that they do with their cameras and their servers. The key to the physical security industry is not in the hardware. The key to the success of the physical security industry is in the software. Because quite honestly, cameras are so commoditized that everybody is trying to get them as cheap as possible. There's an organization called OnVIF, and OnVIF is it's like an open source organization, and so all the manufacturers are starting to join it so that all these different cameras will work with different VMS systems. And that's a good thing, right? Because it keeps your customers from having to totally back up the truck and dump a whole new set of cameras in, with the exception of a few manufacturers, in order to install a new VMS system with more features and more updates and things like that, right? The downside is yeah, I kind of don't know that there is a downside, other than not everybody follows OnVIF appropriately. So you get some manufacturers that have certain features that work with OnVIF, but other features don't, and they still have some proprietary features. Then you get some manufacturers who have multiple lines of cameras, and so their third-party cameras that they're getting from Asia are OnVIF compliant, but then when they manufacture their high-end cameras in the USA or Scotland or Germany or wherever they manufacture them at, then they play a little bit differently. And usually, if you pair those cameras with their VMS system, you get some fantastic features. But you suffer a loss of feature sets when you pair them with those OnVIF based cameras. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there are a lot of customers that don't have a clue what they really want camera systems to do anyway, other than take video. Now, what I will say is overall, the quality of video coming from all levels of cameras is improving so much over just the last year or two that I've seen that it's miraculous. I mean, you've got 4K cameras that are affordable. You know, and it's running 4,000 by 3,000 on the image quality, and it's coming across as H.263, which is a fairly small, or H.264, I'm sorry, which is a fairly small video footprint. So you can keep this video rolling and minimize storage. So anyway, that pretty much covers my talk for today. I just, I saw this, and yeah, we got to get back to the business of being in business as a whole. However, we have to be careful with IoT, Internet of Things, because there are too many things that are unclassified, and there are too many things that aren't updatable. There are too many things that we can't, patch, and that are wide open to hackers. So I think that while embracing it is good and necessary, I think we have to be extremely cautious. And I'm looking at it from just purely from a cybersecurity standpoint. Now, is the advantage of using IoT larger than the potential risk of using IoT? I don't know. That's for you guys to decide. That's for the customer to decide. That's for, people way above my pay grade to decide. But if I were making the decisions, I would have to weigh those things very, very carefully, and I would have to even, as much as I do know about it, I would have to learn even more. about the particular device and what the potential risk is, and things like that. So just a little food for thought. This was going to be a fairly short podcast show, so I thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'm going to get as many Tampa shows out here as I can, and I might even have a live show where you come out and hang out with me. I don't know how my schedule's going to go, but I do want to do that at some point. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. I appreciate you listening. I want to bid you adieu, and we'll see you down the road.
Well, y'all, looks like the show's over. So check us out on our website, www.tonydegonia.com. Then click on the Tony DeGonia Show button at the top of the page. You can also check us out on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, or Spotify, or any of our social media outlets, which you can find on our website at www.tonydegonia.com. Hey, thanks for listening in, and we'll see you down the road.